"I wouldn't pay for this garbage even if you paid me," the blonde customer announced, pushing her plate away. "And you, with your awful attitude, should be fired." Kayla, the waitress, stood there holding her tray, her face pale with humiliation. "Ma'am, I can get you something else," she began. "I want your job." "That's what I want," the woman snapped. At the kitchen door, a famous chef watched the scene, his eyes narrowing as he turned off the stove and removed his apron. But before we see him walk out of that kitchen, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get into the full story. "I wouldn't feed this garbage to a stray dog." Victoria Harrington's voice cut through the elegant dining room of Silver Spoon. "And you, with your incompetence, should be fired immediately. Get me the owner." The restaurant fell silent. Every fork paused mid-air. Every conversation stopped. 35 pairs of eyes turned toward the commotion. In the center of it all stood Kayla Johnson, a waitress with caramel skin and shoulder-length black hair tied back in a neat ponytail. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment as she stood frozen, the rejected plate of steak still in her hands. "I'm very sorry about your meal, Miss Harrington. I can take it back to the kitchen." "Don't bother!" Victoria pushed the plate away, nearly knocking it from Kayla's hands. "Just get me the owner. Now." Across the restaurant, in a corner booth near the kitchen, 3 identical 10-year-old boys watched with worried expressions. Mason, the most confident of the triplets, clenched his fists under the table. Miles, the sensitive one, looked down at his math homework, unable to watch his mother's humiliation. Michael, forever curious, observed everything with wide eyes. Near the kitchen door, a tall man with short brown hair and intense blue eyes watched the scene unfold. Jack Hamilton was known throughout America as a celebrity chef with his own cooking shows and best-selling cookbooks. What nobody in the restaurant knew was that Jack had secretly purchased Silver Spoon 2 months ago. He stepped forward, intending to defuse the situation. Then his eyes caught sight of the triplets in the corner booth. Jack stopped mid-stride, his face showing shock as he studied their features, the shape of their eyes, the curve of their jaws, the way the middle one bit his lip exactly as Jack did when concentrating. "Is everything okay, chef?" Thomas Reynolds, the restaurant manager, appeared at his side. Jack couldn't answer. His mind raced with calculations. Those boys looked about 10 years old. 11 years ago, he had dated a bartender named Kayla at a small Brooklyn restaurant for 3 months before his career took off and they lost touch. Could these be his sons? 12 hours earlier, at 5:30 in the morning, Kayla had awakened in her small Queens apartment. The alarm clock's red numbers glowed in the darkness as she quietly slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her sons in the adjacent room. In the tiny kitchen, she packed 3 identical lunchboxes with sandwiches, apple slices, and homemade cookies. She wrote 3 different notes. "Ace that math test." "Love Mom for Miles," "Hit a home run today," "Love Mom for Mason," and "Have fun in science club." "Love Mom for Michael." "Boys, time to get up," she called, turning on lights throughout the apartment. Sleepy groans came from the boys' bedroom. "5 more minutes," Mason mumbled from the top bunk. "No way, mister." "Up now, all of you," Kayla said, pulling open curtains to let in the early morning light. 20 minutes later, the triplets sat at their small kitchen table, eating cereal while Kayla checked their homework. "Miles, excellent work on your math." "Mason, you need to finish your reading questions." "Michael, your science project looks amazing." "Mom, can we have pizza tonight?" Michael asked. "Not tonight, honey. Remember, you're coming to the restaurant after school." "I hate sitting there for hours," Mason complained, milk dribbling down his chin. "I know it's not fun," Kayla said, wiping his face with a napkin. "But Ms. Parker next door can't watch you on Fridays, and I can't miss my shift. Silver Spoon customers tip the best on Fridays." "It's okay, Mom," Miles said quietly. "We understand." Kayla kissed the top of his head. "You're my good boys. Now hurry up or we'll be late." After dropping the boys at school, Kayla rushed to her daytime job cleaning offices in Midtown. She worked from 9 until 2, then picked up the triplets from school and took them directly to Silver Spoon. By 4 o'clock, the boys were settled in their usual corner booth. The restaurant wouldn't open until 5, giving them an hour to start homework before the dinner rush. "Remember the rules," Kayla said, now dressed in her waitress uniform, crisp white shirt, black pants, and a silver apron. "Stay in this booth. Do your homework. No bothering the staff." "Yes, Mom," they answered in unison. Thomas Reynolds, the restaurant manager, appeared with his clipboard. "Kayla, you'll be taking sections 3 and 4 tonight. And heads up, Victoria Harrington has a reservation at 7. I put her in your section." Kayla's stomach tightened. Victoria Harrington was notorious among the staff for being impossible to please. "Thomas, the last time I served her, she demanded I be fired because her water had too much ice." Thomas shrugged. "She's friends with half the restaurant critics in Manhattan." "Just do your best." In the kitchen, Jack Hamilton inspected the preparations for the evening service. Only Thomas knew Jack had purchased Silver Spoon. To everyone else, he was just consulting on their menu. "Everything looks good, Chef Marcus," Jack said to the head chef. "I think the new steak preparation will be a hit." At exactly 5 o'clock, the doors opened, and Silver Spoon began filling with Manhattan's elite. Kayla moved between tables with practiced efficiency, greeting regulars with genuine warmth. "Mr. and Mrs. Davidson. Lovely to see you again. How was your trip to Florida? James, your usual table is ready. I made sure they chilled the martini glass just how you like it." Jack watched her from near the kitchen. She was good, professional, but authentic. The customers clearly loved her. At 7 o'clock sharp, the front door opened, and Victoria Harrington made her entrance. Her platinum blonde hair was perfectly styled. Her designer dress probably cost more than Kayla made in 3 months, and her expression suggested she had just smelled something unpleasant. "Miss Harrington, welcome to Silver Spoon," Thomas said with a bow. "Your table is ready." Victoria barely acknowledged him as she and 3 equally well-dressed friends followed him to Kayla's section. From their corner booth, the triplets watched the new arrivals. "That lady looks mean," Michael whispered. "Just focus on your homework," Miles responded, always the peacemaker. Kayla approached Victoria's table with a professional smile. "Good evening, ladies. Welcome to Silver Spoon. May I start you with some water?" Victoria looked at Kayla as if she were a piece of furniture. Sparkling, not too cold, no ice. "Of course. Would you like to hear about our specials tonight?" "No. We'll have a bottle of the 2015 Chateau Margaux." After delivering the wine, Kayla returned for their orders. Victoria complained about everything. The bread wasn't fresh enough, the lighting was too dim, the table wobbled. In the kitchen, Jack was plating dishes when he heard Victoria's complaints growing louder. He moved to the service window to get a better view. "Is that steak ready for table 12? A server asked him. Jack nodded, his eyes fixed on Kayla handling the difficult customer with remarkable patience. When Victoria's steak arrived, she cut into it and immediately pushed her plate away. "This meat is overcooked. I ordered medium rare, not leather," she announced loudly. "I wouldn't feed this garbage to a stray dog. And you, with your incompetence, should be fired immediately. Get me the owner." The entire restaurant fell silent. Kayla stood frozen in humiliation. Jack stepped out from the kitchen, intending to intervene. But as he moved forward, his eyes locked on the 3 identical boys in the corner booth, who were now staring anxiously at their mother. And in that moment, looking from Kayla to the triplets and back again, Jack Hamilton felt his entire world shift beneath his feet. Jack Hamilton couldn't sleep that night. The images of the 3 identical boys kept appearing in his mind. Their faces, their features, they looked so much like him when he was their age. The next morning, Jack sat in his office at the back of Silver Spoon. He opened his laptop and pulled up the employee files. Finding Kayla's application was easy. He studied her information. Kayla Johnson, 35 years old, address in Queens. Emergency contact was her sister Lisa. Under dependents, she had listed 3 sons: Mason, Miles, and Michael Johnson, all age 10. 10 years. The timing matched perfectly. Jack searched online for more information. After 20 minutes, he found a local newspaper announcement. Queens resident Kayla Johnson welcomes triplet boys on April 12th. The date was exactly 9 months after their relationship had ended. This can't be a coincidence, Jack whispered to himself. A knock on his office door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," Jack called. Thomas Reynolds entered, his face showing concern. "Chef, we have a problem. Victoria Harrington posted about her experience last night." Thomas placed his tablet on the desk. On the screen was Victoria's social media post. "Awful experience at Silver Spoon last night. Rude service, terrible food, incompetent staff, don't waste your money. Restaurant fail. Silver Spoon disaster." She had tagged several food critics and influencers. The post already had hundreds of comments. "She's trying to destroy us," Thomas said. "We've had 15 reservation cancellations this morning alone." Jack barely heard him. His mind was still on Kayla and the boys. "Chef, did you hear me? I think we need to consider letting Kayla go. Victoria specifically complained about her and—" "No," Jack said firmly. "Absolutely not." "But Chef—" "I said no, Thomas. Kayla stays. End of discussion." Thomas looked surprised by Jack's tone. "May I ask why you're protecting her?" "You barely know her." Jack hesitated. "I have my reasons." "Now please handle the reservation situation. Offer complimentary desserts or wine to anyone who keeps their bookings." After Thomas left, Jack made a decision. He needed to talk to Kayla. In Queens, Kayla was facing her own crisis. She stood in her tiny kitchen holding a letter from her landlord, Mr. Peterson. "Final notice of eviction," it read. "Payment of 3 months back rent must be received within 7 days or eviction proceedings will begin." Kayla sank into a chair at the kitchen table. She had been using her rent money to pay for Miles's asthma medication. The insurance hadn't covered it, and she couldn't let him go without. She picked up her phone and dialed her sister. "Lisa? It's me. I need help." "Let me guess." Lisa's voice sounded tired through the phone. "Money problems again?" "I got an eviction notice. I need $700 by next week or we lose the apartment." "Kayla, I told you last time, this was the last time. I have my own bills. The boys' medication cost more than I expected. Please, Lisa." "Maybe if you had told their father about them, you wouldn't be in this mess," Lisa said sharply. "Or if you'd accepted that child support from that lawyer guy who asked you out." "I don't need a lecture right now," Kayla said. "Never mind. I'll figure something out." She hung up, fighting back tears. Her sister was right about one thing. She had been too proud to hunt down Jack Hamilton when she found out she was pregnant. By then, his career had started taking off. His old number was disconnected, and she didn't want to look like she was chasing a rising star chef for money. She would figure this out on her own. She always did. That evening, Silver Spoon was quieter than usual. The cancellations had left several empty tables. Victoria's social media attack was working. Kayla moved between her tables, maintaining her professional smile despite her worry about the eviction notice. As her shift neared its end, Thomas approached her. "Kayla, Chef Hamilton would like to speak with you after closing." Her heart sank. This was it. She was being fired because of Victoria Harrington. "Is this about last night?" she asked. He didn't say. "Just be in his office at 11. At 10:50, the last customers left. The triplets had fallen asleep in their corner booth, homework spread out before them. Kayla gently woke them. "Boys, I need to talk to Chef Hamilton before we leave. Can you wait 10 more minutes?" "Why, Mom?" Mason asked, rubbing his eyes. "Are you in trouble because of that mean lady?" "No, honey. It's just a work thing. Stay right here, okay?" Kayla walked to Jack's office, her heart pounding. She knocked on the door. "Come in," Jack called. She entered to find Jack sitting behind his desk. He looked different than he did on TV, more serious, more intense. "You wanted to see me, Chef Hamilton?" "Yes, Kayla. Please, sit down." Jack gestured to the chair across from him. "And call me Jack." She sat nervously, folding her hands in her lap. "If this is about Ms. Harrington, I apologize for—" "It's not about that," Jack interrupted. "Well, not directly. First, I want you to know something. I own Silver Spoon." Kayla's eyes widened. "You? But I thought, I purchased it 2 months ago. I kept it quiet because I didn't want my name to change how the restaurant operates." Kayla nodded, still confused about why he was telling her this. Jack leaned forward. "Kayla, I need to ask you something important. Those boys, your sons, they're 10 years old, correct?" She stiffened. "Yes. Why?" "We knew each other 11 years ago, at the Copper Pot in Brooklyn. I was a chef there, and you were—" "The bartender," Kayla finished, her voice barely audible. She suddenly understood where this conversation was going. Jack looked directly into her eyes. "Are they mine, Kayla?" The room fell silent. Kayla could hear her own heartbeat. For 10 years, she had carried this secret alone. Now, here he was, asking the question she had never prepared to answer. "No," she said automatically, the denial coming from years of independence. "They're not." Jack didn't look convinced. "They were born 9 months after we ended our relationship. They have my eyes, my jawline. Even the way Miles bites his lip when he concentrates, I do that exact same thing." Tears filled Kayla's eyes. She couldn't lie to him. "I tried to find you," she whispered, "when I found out I was pregnant. Your number was disconnected. You had moved for that job in Chicago." "You could have tried harder," Jack said, his voice showing hurt rather than anger. "I had a right to know." "You were becoming famous." Kayla's voice rose slightly. "Your face was in cooking magazines. You were on your way up. What was I supposed to do? Show up pregnant and look like I was after your money?" Jack ran his hands through his hair, processing this confirmation. "Triplets. I have 3 sons I've never known." "I've done fine on my own," Kayla said defensively. "They're good boys. Smart, kind." "I don't doubt that," Jack interrupted. "But they deserve to know who their father is." The tension in the room was broken by a small voice at the door. "Mom?" They both turned to see Michael standing in the doorway, his curious eyes moving between his mother and Jack. "The manager guy said we could wait in here. Mason and Miles are still in the booth," Michael said. "Is everything okay?" Kayla quickly wiped her eyes. "Everything's fine, honey. We'll leave in a minute." Michael looked at Jack with interest. "You're the chef from TV. I saw you make a chocolate volcano cake once." Jack seemed unable to speak as he stared at his son, for the first time with the knowledge of their connection. "That's right," he finally managed. "I'm Jack." "I'm Michael," the boy said. "You have the same eyes as me and my brothers." "That's weird." Kayla stood quickly. "Michael, please go back to your brothers. I'll be right there." After Michael left, Kayla turned to Jack, her voice low and urgent. "What happens now?" Jack stood too. "They deserve to know who their father is," he repeated. "And I deserve a chance to know my sons." Kayla nodded slowly, knowing their lives were about to change forever. "We'll talk tomorrow," Jack said gently. "Figure out how to tell them, how to move forward." As Kayla walked toward the door, Jack called after her. "Kayla?" For what it's worth, I would have wanted to know. I would have been there. She paused, not turning around. "I hope that's true, Jack. For their sake, I really do." Kayla hardly slept that night. She kept thinking about Jack, how he looked at Michael, how his voice changed when he realized the boys were his sons. How would she explain to the triplets that their father had been there all along, just not in their lives? The next morning, Kayla met Jack at a small coffee shop 3 blocks from Silver Spoon. She arrived first and chose a corner table, away from other customers. Jack entered exactly at 9 o'clock, carrying 2 cups. I remembered you like hazelnut coffee, he said, placing one in front of her. You remembered that after 11 years? Jack sat down. I remember a lot of things, Kayla. They sat in uncomfortable silence for a moment before Jack spoke. I've been thinking all night about how to tell them. Me too, Kayla admitted. They've asked about their father before. I told them he wasn't ready to be a dad. Which wasn't true, Jack said. I just didn't know. How do we do this without confusing them, without hurting them? Jack took a sip of his coffee. I think we should be honest but simple. Tell them who I am, then give them time to process it before pushing anything. Kayla nodded slowly. They have different personalities. They'll react differently. Tell me about them, Jack said, leaning forward. For the next hour, Kayla shared stories about the triplets, how Mason was confident and protective, Miles was sensitive and creative, Michael was curious and always asking questions. Jack listened intently, asking for details about their interests, their habits, their favorite foods. I've missed so much, he said finally. We can't change that, Kayla replied, but we can decide what happens next. They agreed that Kayla would talk to the boys first, then arrange a meeting at Central Park on Saturday. A public place, neutral ground. That evening, Kayla sat the triplets down in their small living room. Boys, I need to talk to you about something important. 3 identical pairs of eyes, Jack's eyes, she now realized, looked at her with different expressions. Mason's suspicious, Miles's worried, Michael's curious. It's about your father. The room went silent. You know, I've always told you he wasn't ready to be a dad when you were born. Mason crossed his arms. Yeah, he didn't want us. That's not exactly true, Kayla said carefully. He didn't know about you. I never told him. Miles looked up sharply. Why not? It's complicated, honey. We lost touch before I knew I was pregnant, but now he knows. Michael's eyes widened. You found him? Actually, he found us. He's the chef at Silver Spoon, Jack Hamilton. The TV guy? Mason asked incredulously. Yes. And he wants to meet you. Properly meet you as your father. The reactions were exactly as Kayla expected. Mason immediately said no. Miles stared at the floor, saying nothing. Michael asked a dozen questions at once. Is he nice? Does he know we're triplets? Will he teach us to cook? Why did you break up? Does he have other kids? Will we have to be on TV? Slow down, Kayla laughed. Yes, he's nice. Yes, he knows you're triplets. He doesn't have other children. And no, you won't have to be on TV. I don't want to meet him, Mason declared. We don't need him. You don't have to if you truly don't want to, Kayla said gently. But he'd like to meet you on Saturday at Central Park. Just to talk. In the end, all 3 agreed to go, though Mason made it clear he was only going to check if this guy is good enough. On Saturday morning, Jack waited nervously by the boating lake in Central Park. He had 3 identical remote-control boats, red, blue, and green, sitting on the bench beside him. He spotted them walking toward him. Kayla in jeans and a simple sweater, the triplets in matching blue jackets but different colored hats. His heart pounded as he saw all 3 of his sons walking together. Hi, he said when they reached him, trying to keep his voice casual. Boys, this is Jack, Kayla said. Jack, these are Mason, Miles, and Michael. Mason stood slightly in front of his brothers, protective. Miles partly hid behind Kayla. Only Michael stepped forward. Hi, Michael said. Did you bring those boats for us? Jack nodded. I thought maybe you'd like to try them out on the lake. Michael immediately reached for the green one. Miles reluctantly accepted the blue one. Mason took the red one without saying thank you. The next hour was awkward. Jack tried to engage them in conversation, but only Michael responded enthusiastically. Miles gave one-word answers. Mason tested his boat far away from where Jack stood. They need time, Kayla said quietly, standing beside Jack. This is a lot for them to process. Back at Silver Spoon that evening, Thomas showed Jack more reservation cancellations. "Victoria's campaign against us is working," Thomas said. "Her followers are sharing that post everywhere." "We need to counter it," Jack replied. "Something big that will get positive attention." Jack gathered his kitchen staff after closing. "Silver Spoon's 10-year anniversary is coming up next month. I want to create a special event, something that will attract food critics, celebrities, loyal customers. We need to remind everyone what makes this place special." The staff began brainstorming ideas, special menu items, decorations, potential VIP guests to invite. Meanwhile, Kayla received more bad news. Her supervisor at the cleaning company called. "I'm sorry, Kayla, but we have to reduce your hours. Business is slow, and we need to cut costs." Kayla hung up the phone, panic rising. With reduced hours and still no help with her rent, she had no idea how she would avoid eviction. The next day, Jack asked Kayla to stay after her shift ended. "The boys told me about the fun they had with the boats," Kayla said. "Even Mason, though he pretended not to care." "I'm glad," Jack said. "Kayla, I noticed your address on your application. That building had eviction notices posted when I drove by yesterday." Kayla stiffened. "You were checking up on us?" "I was curious about where my sons live," Jack admitted. "Are you having money problems?" "That's none of your business." "It is, if it affects my sons." "I've managed for 10 years without your help," Kayla said sharply. "I don't need your charity now." Their argument was interrupted by Thomas knocking on the office door. "Kayla, your son Miles is asking for you. He seems upset." Miles was sitting in the corner booth, his face streaked with tears. His brothers sat on either side of him. "What happened?" Kayla asked, kneeling in front of him. "Some kids at school saw that mean lady's post," Mason explained. "It had a picture of Mom. They were saying stuff." "What stuff?" Jack asked, standing behind Kayla. "That Mom is just a waitress," Mason said. "That she got fired for being bad at her job. That we're poor." Miles looked up, his eyes red. "Joey Carson said only losers have moms who are waitresses." Jack's expression hardened. "That's completely untrue. Your mother has one of the hardest jobs there is." Miles just looked down again, unconvinced. The next day, Jack arrived at PS 118 in Queens. He carried several large bags of cooking equipment. The school principal, Mrs. Torres, greeted him excitedly. "The children have no idea you're coming, Chef Hamilton." Miles's class will be so surprised. Jack entered the 5th grade classroom to gasps and whispers. Miles stared in shock from the back row. "Good morning. I'm Chef Jack Hamilton. Your principal invited me to give a special cooking demonstration today." For the next hour, Jack showed the class how to make simple chocolate desserts. The children were captivated. Throughout the demonstration, he casually mentioned Kayla. "My friend Kayla, who happens to be Miles's mom, taught me a trick about tempering chocolate. She has an amazing palate for desserts. When I was starting out, Kayla could name every ingredient in a dish just by tasting it. That's a rare talent." By the end of the demonstration, the children were looking at Miles with new respect. As they lined up to leave, Miles approached Jack. "Why did you come to my school?" he asked quietly. "Because I wanted to meet your friends," Jack said. "And maybe show them that being a waitress is something to respect, not make fun of." Miles nodded slowly. "Thank you for coming." "Would you and your brothers and Mom like to come to my apartment for dinner on Sunday?" Jack asked. "I could teach you some cooking tricks." For the first time, Miles gave Jack a small smile. "I'd like that." When Jack told Kayla about the invitation, she was surprised that all 3 boys wanted to go, even Mason. "Maybe this will work out after all," she said cautiously. "One step at a time," Jack replied, "but it's a good start." Sunday afternoon came quickly. Kayla stood in front of her bedroom mirror, changing her outfit for the 3rd time. "Mom, we're going to be late," Michael called from the living room. "Coming," Kayla replied, finally settling on jeans and a simple blue blouse. In the living room, the triplets waited impatiently. Miles had combed his hair neatly. Michael carried a small notebook filled with questions about cooking. Even Mason had put on his cleanest shirt without complaint. "Remember your manners," Kayla reminded them as they left the apartment. "No running, no touching things without permission." "We know, Mom," Mason said, rolling his eyes. "We're not babies." They took the subway to Manhattan. As they emerged onto the street, the boys stared up at the tall buildings surrounding them. "Which one is his?" Michael asked. Kayla checked the address Jack had texted her. "That one," she said, pointing to a sleek glass building with a doorman out front. The doorman smiled as they approached. "You must be Miss Johnson and the boys. Chef Hamilton said to send you right up. Penthouse floor." Inside Jack's apartment, the triplets stood in stunned silence. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Central Park. The living room alone was bigger than their entire Queens apartment. "You live here?" Miles asked when Jack greeted them at the door. "I do," Jack replied. "Would you like a tour?" Michael immediately stepped forward. "Yes." Jack showed them around. The professional kitchen, his office filled with cookbooks, the entertainment room with a massive television and gaming system. Mason's eyes lit up at the sight of the latest gaming console. "Do you play?" Jack asked, noticing Mason's interest. "Sometimes," Mason shrugged, trying to seem unimpressed. "At my friend Devin's house. Maybe after dinner you could show me how. I'm terrible at games." For the first time, Mason gave Jack a genuine smile. In the kitchen, Jack had prepared ingredients for them to make pizzas together. "I thought we could each make our own. You can choose whatever toppings you want." "Really?" Michael asked. "Mom never lets us have different pizzas." "Because I'm not making 3 separate meals when I get home from work," Kayla explained. As they made their pizzas, Jack noticed Miles studying the cookbooks on his kitchen shelf. "You like cooking, Miles?" Jack asked. Miles nodded shyly. "I watch your shows sometimes." Jack pulled down a large cookbook with colorful pictures. "This was my first cookbook. It has simple recipes that are good for beginners. Can I look at it?" "You can have it," Jack said. "I have another copy." Miles's eyes widened. "Really? Thank you." Later, while the boys were playing in the entertainment room, Jack and Kayla sat in the kitchen. "They seem comfortable here," Jack said. "Too comfortable," Kayla replied, watching through the doorway as Mason showed Jack's expensive gaming system to his brothers. "This is nothing like their real life, Jack." "It could be part of their life now," Jack said carefully. "Kayla, I want to talk about your financial situation." Kayla stiffened. "I told you we're fine." "You have an eviction notice, that's not fine. How did you—" "I spoke with your landlord," Jack admitted. "Mr. Peterson." "You had no right," Kayla said, her voice rising. "I paid your back rent," Jack continued, "and I negotiated a 6-month lease extension at the current rate." Kayla stood up, furious. "You did what?" "They're my sons too, I can't let them be homeless." "I would have figured something out, I always do." Their argument was interrupted by Michael entering the kitchen. "Why are you yelling?" he asked. Kayla forced a smile. "We're just having a grown-up discussion, honey. Go play with your brothers." After Michael left, Kayla lowered her voice. "You can't just sweep in after 10 years and take over. I've been handling everything on my own." "I know," Jack said gently. "You've done an amazing job, Kayla. But you don't have to do it alone anymore." The next morning, Jack was in his office at Silver Spoon when Thomas knocked on his door. "Victoria Harrington is on the phone for you," Thomas said, looking uncomfortable. "She says it's urgent." Jack took the call. "Ms. Harrington, what can I do for you?" "You can explain why you're hiding your secret family from the public," Victoria replied coldly. Jack felt his stomach tighten. "Excuse me?" "The waitress and her 3 boys, your sons. Don't bother denying it. Thomas confirmed it when I had lunch with him yesterday." Jack glared at Thomas, who quickly exited the office. My personal life is not up for discussion, Ms. Harrington. It will be when I tell my friends at Celebrity Scoop magazine, Victoria said, unless you publicly fire that incompetent waitress. Is that a threat? Consider it a friendly warning. You have 24 hours to decide. After hanging up, Jack immediately received another call from Sarah Bennett, his television producer. Jack, we need to talk, Sarah said without greeting. There are rumors about you having secret children with a waitress. Please tell me this isn't true. It's complicated, Sarah. Complicated is bad for ratings, Jack. The network is nervous. Your show is supposed to be about a bachelor chef living the dream life, not a daddy drama. The show will be fine, Jack insisted. Not if Victoria Harrington keeps spreading stories. She has connections at every network. Fix this, Jack. That afternoon, the triplets were leaving school when a sleek black car pulled up beside them. The window rolled down, revealing Victoria's perfectly made-up face. "Hello, boys," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're Miles, Mason, and Michael, right?" The boys stopped, looking at her cautiously. "You're the mean lady from the restaurant," Mason said. Victoria ignored the comment. "I'm a big fan of your father's cooking shows. Have you been on TV with him yet?" "No," Michael answered. "Do you know our dad?" "Oh yes, we're old friends. I'm actually helping him plan a special surprise. Could you tell me how long you've known he was your father? It's for the surprise." Miles stepped back, uncomfortable. "We should go. Our mom said not to talk to strangers." "I'm hardly a stranger," Victoria said. "I've known your father for years. Has he talked about moving you to a better school or having you on his cooking show?" Before the boys could answer, their after-school supervisor called them over. Victoria smiled and drove away. That evening at Silver Spoon, Michael told Kayla about the nice lady who asked questions about their dad. "What did she look like?" Kayla asked, suddenly alert. "Blonde hair, lots of makeup. She was in a black car." Kayla immediately called Jack. "Victoria Harrington approached the boys at school today. She was asking them questions about you." "What?" Jack's voice was filled with anger. "I'll handle this." 2 days later, Kayla was serving tables when she spotted Victoria entering a charity luncheon at the Plaza Hotel across the street from Silver Spoon. Without thinking, Kayla removed her apron and walked out. She confronted Victoria in the hotel lobby, where dozens of socialites were gathered. "Stay away from my children," Kayla said, her voice shaking with anger. Victoria turned, feigning surprise. "Excuse me? You approached my sons at their school. If you ever go near them again—" "You'll what?" Victoria asked with a smirk. "Call the police?" "And tell them what? That I asked some friendly questions?" "I know what you're doing. You're trying to hurt Jack through us." Victoria stepped closer. "That celebrity chef has built his career on his perfect image. The public doesn't know he abandoned his pregnant girlfriend and his 3 sons." "That's not what happened." Their voices had risen, attracting attention. Several people began recording with their phones. "Everyone should know what kind of man Jack Hamilton really is," Victoria continued, playing to the audience. "A man who ignores his own children for 10 years. "You don't know anything about us," Kayla shot back. "You're just a bitter woman who enjoys hurting people." Security guards approached, asking them to leave. As Kayla walked out, she noticed dozens of phones pointed at her. By evening, the confrontation was all over social media. Jack received urgent calls from his agent, his publisher, and Sarah. "Your waitress girlfriend just gave me exactly what I needed," Victoria told Jack on the phone that night. "And tomorrow, everyone in New York will know your perfect celebrity chef image is nothing but a lie." Jack woke up to his phone buzzing non-stop. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. He had 27 missed calls and dozens of text messages. The first one he opened was from his agent with a link to a tabloid website. The headline read, "Celebrity Chef's Secret Family Exposed. Jack Hamilton's Hidden Sons and Their Waitress Mother." The article included photos of Kayla at Silver Spoon, the triplets outside their school, and even an old picture of Jack and Kayla together from 11 years ago. Victoria had clearly been planning this for days. Jack immediately called Kayla. "Have you seen it?" he asked when she answered. "Yes," Kayla said, her voice tight. "There are photographers outside our building. The boys and I can't leave for school. I'm sending a car. Pack some clothes. You can stay at my place until this blows over." "Jack, I don't think—" "Please, Kayla, just until we figure this out." An hour later, Kayla and the triplets arrived at Jack's apartment. The boys looked shaken. Mason's face was flushed with anger. Miles was unusually quiet, and Michael kept asking questions Kayla couldn't answer. "Why are people taking our pictures? Are we famous now? Is Dad in trouble?" Jack met them at the door. "I'm so sorry about this," he said. "Come in. You'll be safe here." He showed them to the guest rooms he had quickly prepared. As the boys unpacked their backpacks, Jack's phone rang again. It was Sarah Bennett. "The network is putting your show on hold," Sarah said without preamble. "They want to reassess the situation in light of recent developments." "Sarah, this isn't as bad as it seems. I just found out about the boys. I didn't know—" "It doesn't matter, Jack. Your contract specifically required disclosure of any potential scandals. This qualifies." After hanging up, Jack found Thomas waiting to speak with him. "Chef, I've been fielding calls all morning. The investors are concerned about the publicity." "It'll blow over," Jack said firmly. Thomas shook his head. "I don't think so." Frank Morrison called. He said either you distance yourself from this situation or they'll pull their funding from Silver Spoon. They can't do that. I'm the majority owner. "You still need their capital for operations," Thomas reminded him. "And frankly, Chef, this is affecting our business. We have paparazzi outside instead of customers." Jack ran his hand through his hair in frustration. "Tell Frank I'll call him this afternoon." That evening, Jack gathered Kayla and the triplets in his living room. The boys had spent the day indoors, missing school because of the media attention. "We need to talk about what's happening," Jack began. "The story about our family is in all the papers now." "Are you in trouble because of us?" Miles asked quietly. "No," Jack said firmly. "None of this is your fault." "The kids at school are going to be awful," Mason said. "Diego already texted me saying we're on TV." "That's what I wanted to discuss," Jack said. "I think it might be best if you all stay here for a while. At least until the media loses interest." "And how long will that be?" Kayla asked. "A few weeks, maybe. I can enroll the boys in a private school nearby. They have better security, and the students are used to having classmates with famous parents." Kayla shook her head. "No, we're not changing schools. We're not hiding." "Kayla, be reasonable. They can't even walk to school without being photographed." "So we face it. We don't run away." Their disagreement quickly escalated into an argument. "You don't understand how the media works," Jack insisted. "They'll make our lives miserable until they find a new story." "And you don't understand what it means to raise children with values," Kayla shot back. "What lesson does it teach them if we run and hide? That they should be ashamed? It's not about shame, it's about protection. We've managed just fine without your protection for 10 years. In the hallway outside, Miles listened to their argument, his heart pounding. He heard Jack's voice rise in frustration. "Maybe this was a mistake," Jack said. Miles didn't hear what came next. He quietly went to his temporary bedroom, packed his backpack, and slipped out through the service entrance Jack had shown them earlier. 20 minutes later, Michael asked, "Where's Miles?" The arguing stopped instantly. They searched the entire apartment, calling Miles's name. He was nowhere to be found. "He must have heard us fighting," Kayla said, her face pale with worry. "He's sensitive. He probably got upset." Jack immediately called building security. "My son is missing, 10 years old, wearing a blue hoodie. Check all the security cameras." The footage showed Miles leaving through the service entrance 40 minutes earlier. "He doesn't know Manhattan," Kayla said, panicking. "He could be anywhere." "I'll find him," Jack promised. "You stay here with Mason and Michael in case he comes back." Jack spent the next 3 hours searching nearby parks, subway stations, and anywhere else a 10-year-old might go. He called every contact he had, asking doormen and restaurant staff throughout the neighborhood to watch for Miles. As evening fell, Jack had a sudden thought. He hailed a taxi. Brooklyn, Williamsburg, the corner of Bedford and North 7th. The taxi dropped him in front of a small restaurant called Martino's. It had once been the Copper Pot, where Jack and Kayla had met 11 years ago. The restaurant had changed ownership, but the building was the same. Jack found Miles sitting on the steps outside, hugging his backpack to his chest. "Miles," Jack said gently, sitting down beside him, "you scared us." Miles didn't look up. "I heard you and Mom fighting. You said it was a mistake." "Oh, Miles," Jack sighed. "I meant the argument was a mistake, not you. Never you or your brothers." "Why did you come here?" Jack asked after a moment. "I saw a picture in one of your cookbooks. It said this is where you worked before you got famous. Mom told us once she used to be a bartender in Williamsburg. I figured out it must be the same place." Jack was impressed by Miles's detective work. "How did you even get here?" "I used my subway card. Then I asked directions." They sat in silence for a moment. "Mom and I are both trying to figure this out," Jack said finally. "Neither of us expected any of this to happen. Are you mad that she never told you about us?" Jack thought carefully before answering. "I was sad at first. Sad that I missed so many years with you. But I understand why your mom made that choice. She's an incredible mother." "She works really hard," Miles said. "Sometimes too hard." "I know. That's why I want to help now." "But you're famous. You have a TV show and restaurants. Do you really have time for us?" The question hit Jack hard. "Miles, look at me," he said, waiting until the boy met his eyes. "Before I found out about you and your brothers, I had a successful career, but my life didn't have real meaning. Now, it does." "Really? Really? Money, fame, TV shows, none of that matters compared to being your dad." Miles wiped his eyes. "I was worried you'd decide we weren't worth all this trouble." "That will never happen," Jack promised. "You, Mason, and Michael are the most important people in my life now, and I'm going to prove it." They took a taxi back to Manhattan. When they arrived at Jack's apartment, Kayla ran to Miles, hugging him tightly. "Don't you ever do that again," she said, her voice shaking. "You could have been hurt or lost." "I'm sorry, Mom," Miles said. Jack watched the reunion, seeing Mason and Michael join the hug. In that moment, he made his decision. "I know what I need to do," he said, more to himself than anyone else. Kayla looked up at him, questioning. "Some things are worth more than money or fame," Jack explained, "and it's time I showed everyone what really matters to me." Early the next morning, Jack called his publicist, Diane Walker. "Jack, I've drafted a statement," Diane said before he could speak. "We'll say you only recently discovered the children and are taking time to handle this private matter away from the public eye." "No, Diane, that's not what I want," Jack interrupted. "I need you to arrange a press conference, today." "A press conference? That's the opposite of what you should do right now. We need to minimize this story, not feed it." "I'm done hiding," Jack said firmly. "This is my family, and I'm going to face this head-on." 3 hours later, Jack stood in front of a crowd of reporters outside Silver Spoon. Camera flashes lit up his face as he began to speak. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. I want to address the stories that have been circulating about me. Yes, I am the father of 3 amazing 10-year-old boys, Mason, Miles, and Michael. Their mother, Kayla Johnson, and I had a relationship 11 years ago, before my career took off." Jack paused, taking a deep breath. "When Kayla discovered she was pregnant, I had already moved to Chicago for a new job. She tried to contact me, but my number had changed. I didn't know I was a father until 2 weeks ago when I recognized my sons sitting in the corner of my own restaurant." A reporter called out, Why should we believe you didn't know?" "Because I would never have chosen to miss 10 years of my sons' lives," Jack answered honestly. "I missed their first steps, their first words, their first day of school. I would give anything to have those moments back." "What about your image as a bachelor chef?" another reporter asked. "That image doesn't matter to me anymore. What matters is being a good father to my sons and making up for lost time. I'm proud of my family, and I won't hide them to protect my celebrity status or TV ratings." After the press conference, Jack returned to his apartment where Kayla and the boys were watching the coverage on television. "You didn't have to do that," Kayla said softly. "Yes, I did," Jack replied. By evening, social media was buzzing with reactions. To everyone's surprise, most were supportive. The hashtag #FamilyFirst was trending, with people sharing stories of their own reunited families. Sarah Bennett called Jack the next morning. "Well, that was unexpected," she said, "but I have to admit it's working. The network is interested in a new show concept." "What new concept?" "Something featuring your journey as a new father. People are connecting with your story, Jack. It feels authentic." Later that day, Jack asked Kayla to meet him at Silver Spoon after closing. He had spread large sheets of paper across a table covered with sketches and notes. "What's all this?" Kayla asked. "My vision for Silver Spoon. Or rather, what it could become," Jack said excitedly. "A restaurant that actually supports working parents instead of making their lives harder." He showed her the drawings, a redesigned layout with a supervised homework area, a partially open kitchen so diners could see the chefs, and a special family section. "I want to create a place where fine dining and family aren't mutually exclusive, where staff with children can work flexible schedules, where single parents can advance their careers." Kayla studied the plans. "This is ambitious. And I want you to help me design it," Jack added. "As a business partner." Kayla looked up in surprise. "Me? I'm just a waitress." "No, you're not just anything. Thomas told me how you've been handling vendor issues better than he does, and I've seen how you manage the dining room. You have a talent for this business, Kayla." "I did take some business courses at community college," she admitted, "before I got pregnant. I always thought I might manage a restaurant someday, but then life happened." "It's not too late," Jack said. "We could build this together." Kayla ran her fingers over the drawings. "I'd need to think about it." That weekend, the triplets had their first official weekend stay at Jack's apartment. Jack had transformed his guest rooms, allowing each boy to choose how to decorate their own space. "Really? I can have a Star Wars theme?" Michael asked in amazement. "Whatever you want," Jack confirmed. "This is your room now." Miles chose a room with built-in bookshelves, which Jack filled with cookbooks. Mason, still the most reserved, simply asked for a blue comforter and a place to keep his sports equipment. On Saturday morning, Miles wandered into the kitchen where Jack was making breakfast. "Can you teach me how to make those eggs?" Miles asked shyly. "Of course," Jack smiled, handing him a whisk. "The secret is to keep stirring gently." For the next hour, Jack gave Miles his first cooking lesson. The boy was a natural, following instructions carefully and asking thoughtful questions. That afternoon, Michael approached Jack with a half-built model rocket. "Dad, my science project is due Monday, but I can't get the fins to stay on right." It was the first time any of the boys had called him Dad without prompting. Jack felt his heart swell. "Let's fix it together," he said, clearing space on the dining table. On Sunday, Jack attended Mason's baseball game. He sat in the bleachers, cheering loudly even when Mason struck out twice. After the game, which Mason's team lost, Jack found the boy sitting alone, still wearing his uniform. "You played well," Jack said, sitting beside him. "We lost," Mason muttered. "Losing happens to everyone, even to me." Mason looked skeptical. "You're famous. You win all the time." "Actually, I've failed plenty. My first restaurant went bankrupt. I got kicked out of culinary school for arguing with a teacher. The first time I was on TV, I burned the dish on camera. Mason's eyes widened. Really? Really? Winning isn't what matters. It's getting back up when you fail. Mason was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Could you help me practice batting?" "Coach says my swing needs work." "I'd love to," Jack said. Meanwhile, Victoria was making one last attempt at revenge. She arranged a meeting with Frank Morrison, Silver Spoon's biggest investor. "Frank, I'm concerned about Jack's judgment lately," Victoria said, sitting across from the older man in his office. "His personal drama is affecting the restaurant." "That's not what I've observed," Frank replied calmly. "Revenue is actually up this week." "It's the novelty factor. It won't last," Victoria insisted, "and his new domestic situation will be a distraction. I've heard he's completely rebranding Silver Spoon into some kind of family restaurant. That's hardly the high-end concept you invested in." Frank leaned back in his chair. "Victoria, I appreciate your concern, but I make investment decisions based on numbers and vision, not gossip." After Victoria left, Frank called Jack directly. "Jack, I just had an interesting visit from Victoria Harrington." "Frank, I can explain." "No need. I've been following your press. This family-friendly restaurant concept intrigues me. My wife and I raised 5 children while building our business. I know the challenges." "So you're not pulling your investment?" Jack asked, surprised. "Quite the opposite. I'd like to increase it. Send me your business plan when it's ready." That evening, Jack and Kayla stayed late at Silver Spoon, working on the formal business plan for what they now called Family Table. "What if we add a training program specifically for single parents wanting to enter the restaurant industry?" Kayla suggested. "That's brilliant," Jack said, making notes. "We could offer scholarships, flexible hours around school schedules." They worked until midnight, their excitement growing with each new idea. As they finished, Jack looked at Kayla in admiration. "You're amazing at this," he said. "We make a good team." Kayla smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "Yes, we do." For the first time since reconnecting, they felt something beyond their shared responsibility for the triplets, a spark of what had drawn them together 11 years ago. "Jack," Kayla said hesitantly, "I think I'm ready to accept your business proposal. Let's build Family Table together." Jack grinned. "Partner?" he said, extending his hand. As they shook hands, both felt the beginning of something new, a partnership that might change not just their family's future, but how restaurants treat working parents across the city. The very next morning, Jack and Kayla began turning their ideas into reality. They sat in Jack's car, a list of potential restaurant locations between them. "Are you sure about this?" Kayla asked, looking at the expensive neighborhoods on their list. "These places cost a fortune to rent." Jack started the engine. "We need the right location. Frank's additional investment gives us options." Their first stop was an empty storefront in Soho. The real estate agent, a woman named Brenda with a bright smile, unlocked the glass doors. "This space has 3,000 square feet, Brenda explained. "Previously a clothing boutique. The kitchen would need complete installation." Kayla walked around the empty space trying to envision their restaurant. "The ceilings are too low for what we need." They visited 4 more locations that day. A former restaurant in Chelsea had a beautiful kitchen but limited dining space. A corner property in Tribeca had great foot traffic but poor ventilation. Nothing felt right. "What about just renovating Silver Spoon?" Kayla suggested as they drove back. "We already have the customers, the staff, the location." Jack nodded slowly. "I've been thinking the same thing. It would preserve the history while transforming the concept." That weekend, Jack invited Kayla and the triplets to Silver Spoon after hours. He spread large sheets of paper across several tables pushed together. "We're having a family brainstorming session," Jack announced. "Family Table needs input from all of us." "Even us?" Michael asked, surprised. "Especially you 3, Jack replied. "This restaurant needs to work for kids too. For the next 2 hours, they all contributed ideas. Michael designed a homework area with special lighting and comfortable chairs. Mason reluctantly suggested a sports-themed family section with TVs showing games. Miles worked quietly on a children's menu. "What about this?" Miles asked, showing his drawing to Jack. "Kid-sized versions of grown-up food, not just chicken fingers and fries. Real food that looks cool." "That's brilliant," Jack said, genuinely impressed. "A tasting menu for kids. I've never seen that done well." Kayla watched the interaction with a smile. In just a few weeks, the relationship between Jack and the boys had grown stronger than she could have imagined. The next day, Frank Morrison invited Kayla to lunch at his corporate office. "Jack tells me you'll be handling the business operations," Frank said as they ate. "What's your background in restaurant management?" Kayla felt uncomfortable. "Honestly, I've only worked as a waitress and bartender. I took some business courses years ago, but you have real-world experience," Frank interrupted. "You understand service from the ground up. That's valuable." "I'm learning as I go," Kayla admitted. "Let me mentor you," Frank offered. "My restaurants operate in 7 states. I can teach you the financial side." Kayla was surprised by his offer. "Why would you do that?" "Because I believe in what you and Jack are building," Frank said simply. "And because I was raised by a single mother who waited tables while putting herself through school." With Frank's guidance, Kayla quickly developed skills in vendor negotiations, staff scheduling, and budget management. She discovered a natural talent for operations that surprised both her and Jack. Meanwhile, not everyone at Silver Spoon was excited about the changes. Thomas called a staff meeting where several employees expressed concerns. "Fine dining and children don't mix," said Marcus, the head chef. "My soufflés can't survive in a room with sticky fingers and noise. And our regular customers come here for a sophisticated experience," added Sophia, the sommelier, "not to listen to children." Jack listened patiently before responding. "I understand your concerns, but I believe we can create a space that respects both experiences. The restaurant will have distinct sections, and our standards won't change." Despite his reassurances, 3 staff members requested transfers to other restaurants. Jack wasn't deterred. He began interviewing new staff, specifically seeking parents returning to the workforce. "Tell me about your experience," Jack said to Rachel, a chef who had taken 5 years off to raise her daughter. "I was sous chef at the Garrison before having Emma," Rachel explained. "I've tried to return to restaurant work, but the hours make childcare impossible. What if you could work a shift that ended at 5 and bring your daughter on school holidays?" Rachel's eyes widened. "That exists?" "It will at family table," Jack promised. While the planning continued, the triplets began spending every weekend at Jack's apartment. Each boy developed their own relationship with him. Miles now had regular cooking lessons, making simple dishes together every Saturday morning. Michael worked with Jack on science projects and models. Mason still kept some distance but had begun accepting Jack's help with baseball practice. One Sunday morning, Jack drove Mason to a batting cage. "Remember what I showed you?" Jack said, standing outside the cage. "Keep your eye on the ball." Mason swung and missed the first 5 pitches from the machine. "This is stupid," he muttered, dropping the bat. "I'm no good." "Try again," Jack encouraged. "It takes practice." "Why do you even care?" Mason asked suddenly. "You didn't care for 10 years." Jack took a deep breath. "I didn't know about you for 10 years. There's a difference, and I care because you're my son." "Would you still care if I'm not good at anything? Miles can cook. Michael is smart. I'm just average." Jack knelt down to eye level with Mason. "There's nothing average about you. And yes, I'd care about you even if you never hit a single ball." Mason picked up the bat again. "Show me one more time where my hands should be." Back at Silver Spoon, construction had begun on the renovations. The entire restaurant was draped in plastic sheets and filled with the sounds of drilling and hammering. Jack and Kayla supervised every detail. Then, disaster nearly struck. Kayla arrived one morning to find a health inspector waiting. "We've received an anonymous complaint about food safety violations," the inspector said. Kayla's stomach dropped. "We follow all protocols. Jack, Chef Hamilton, is extremely strict about safety." The inspection was thorough. The inspector checked temperature logs, storage practices, and employee hygiene stations. To Kayla's relief, they passed with flying colors. "Someone was hoping to find problems," Kayla told Jack later. "I bet it was Victoria." "Probably," Jack agreed. "But she failed. Our standards are impeccable." The health inspection caused construction delays. The original plan had been to keep part of the restaurant open during renovations, but now they had to close completely for 3 weeks. During this time, Jack and Kayla worked even more closely together. Late nights poring over plans and making decisions brought them closer. Their professional relationship was evolving into friendship again, and possibly something more. One night, while reviewing fabric samples for the new booths, Kayla noticed Jack watching her. "What?" she asked. "You're good at this," he said. "All of it. The business side, the design decisions, handling the staff. You were meant for more than taking orders." "Maybe," Kayla said. "But I don't regret the path I took. It gave me our sons." The triplets were also becoming invested in the restaurant. They helped paint the children's area one Saturday, wearing oversized t-shirts over their clothes as makeshift smocks. "This is our restaurant too, right, Mom?" Michael asked, carefully painting a wall panel. "Yes," Kayla smiled. "It belongs to all of us." As the renovation neared completion, Jack confirmed attendance of key food critics and influencers for the soft opening. "It's important we make a strong first impression," Jack told Kayla. "These critics can make or break us." The day before the soft opening, a vendor delivered the wrong meat order. Kayla handled the crisis herself, negotiating with 3 different suppliers until she found a replacement delivery. "That was impressive," Jack said when she returned triumphant. "You have natural business instincts." That evening, just after everyone had left, the lights suddenly flickered and went out. "What happened?" Kayla asked in the darkness. Jack used his phone's flashlight to check the electrical panel. "It looks like the new kitchen equipment overloaded the system. We need an electrician immediately." "But the soft opening is tomorrow. All those food critics are coming." Jack made calls to every electrician he knew. Finally, one agreed to come right away. As they waited, Jack and Kayla sat on the steps outside Silver Spoon. "We can postpone if we need to," Kayla suggested. "No," Jack said firmly. "We've worked too hard. We'll make this happen." The electrician arrived at 10 o'clock and worked through the night. Jack and Kayla stayed, moving furniture and helping where they could. By 5 in the morning, exhausted but relieved, the lights were back on. "We did it," Kayla said, smiling tiredly at Jack. "We're a good team," he replied, squeezing her hand. "Get some sleep. Tonight is our big night." Neither of them realized that this electrical problem would be nothing compared to the dramatic events about to unfold at Family Table's soft opening. Despite having only 2 hours of sleep, Jack and Kayla arrived at Family Table early that afternoon. The restaurant looked transformed, no longer the formal Silver Spoon but a warm, welcoming space with elegant touches. The main dining area still maintained its sophisticated atmosphere, but now there was also a family section with comfortable booths and the promised homework area with good lighting and sturdy tables. The kitchen staff was busy preparing for the evening, led by Jack and the newly hired Rachel. The menu combined Jack's signature dishes with new family-friendly options, including Miles's idea for a children's tasting menu. "Everything looks amazing," Kayla said, surveying the restaurant. She wore a navy blue dress instead of a waitress uniform. Her first night as a manager rather than a server. "Thanks to you," Jack replied. "You made this happen as much as I did." The triplets arrived at 4 o'clock, dressed in miniature versions of the staff uniform, black pants and white shirts with small blue ties. Jack had given each boy a special role for the evening. "Remember what we practiced," Jack told them. "Miles, you'll explain the children's menu to families. Michael, you'll show guests the homework area. Mason, you'll help greet VIPs with Kayla." "I'm nervous," Miles admitted. "You'll be great," Jack assured him. "You know these dishes better than anyone." At exactly 5:30, the doors opened for the soft opening. Frank Morrison arrived first with several business associates. "Impressive transformation," Frank said, looking around. "The space feels completely different." Food critics began arriving next, followed by social media influencers with large followings. Jack moved between the kitchen and dining room, making sure each dish was perfect before it left the kitchen. Kayla handled the front of house with natural confidence, seating guests and managing the flow of service. Mason stood beside her, surprising everyone with his polite professionalism as he greeted guests. "Welcome to Family Table," he said to an important restaurant critic. "My mom will show you to your table." In the family section, Miles carefully explained the children's tasting menu to the first families who arrived. "This is beef just like the adults eat, but we make it more fun," he explained, pointing to the menu photos he had helped design. "And you can choose how many courses you want." Michael proudly showed the homework area to interested guests. "We have different kinds of pencils, and the chairs are really comfortable for long homework sessions. I tested them myself." By 7 o'clock, the restaurant was full. The reviews were immediate, guests posting photos of their meals on social media with enthusiastic comments. Several food critics were nodding approvingly as they tasted Jack's new creations. Sarah from the network arrived with 2 television executives. She pulled Jack aside in a quiet moment. "The network loves the concept, Jack," Sarah said. "They're thinking a whole series, Family Table, showing your journey as a new father while building this restaurant." "That sounds perfect," Jack smiled. "As long as Kayla and the boys are comfortable with it." Just as the evening hit its stride, Victoria Harrington entered uninvited. She wore an expensive designer dress and was accompanied by a man Jack recognized as a reporter from Celebrity Scoop magazine. Kayla spotted them immediately and approached. "Ms. Harrington, I don't recall seeing your name on our guest list." "I don't need an invitation," Victoria replied loudly. "I'm here to see if the famous Chef Hamilton is still hiding behind his waitress girlfriend and secret children." The nearby tables fell silent. The reporter beside Victoria was already taking notes. Jack emerged from the kitchen, alerted by the commotion. "Victoria, this is a private event." Victoria turned to face the room. Everyone should know the truth about Jack Hamilton. He abandoned his pregnant girlfriend for fame and fortune, then pretended to be shocked when he discovered his children 10 years later. It's all an act for publicity. The restaurant was completely silent now. Every guest was watching the scene unfold. Jack looked at Kayla, then at the triplets who had gathered near her, their faces showing confusion and hurt. He made a decision. "May I have everyone's attention?" Jack said, walking to the center of the dining room. "Victoria is right about one thing. You all deserve the truth." He took a microphone from the host's stand. "Yes, I recently discovered I have 3 amazing sons, Mason, Miles, and Michael." Jack gestured toward the boys. "And yes, I wasn't in their lives for 10 years. But not because I abandoned them." Jack took a deep breath before continuing. 10 years ago, I was focused entirely on my career. When Kayla and I dated, I was so busy trying to become successful that I changed my phone number without making sure everyone important had my new contact information. When we broke up, I simply moved on to the next opportunity. The room remained silent as Jack continued. "I didn't know Kayla was pregnant. She tried to find me, but I had made myself unfindable. That was my failure, being so focused on my career that I didn't maintain connections to the people who mattered." Jack looked directly at Victoria now. "So no, Victoria, I didn't abandon my family for fame. But I did miss 10 years of my sons' lives because I didn't understand what really matters. Success means nothing if you don't have people to share it with." Jack moved to stand beside Kayla and the triplets. "This restaurant represents what I've learned." Family Table isn't just a name. It's a promise that families, in all their forms, matter more than anything else. The crowd began to applaud. Victoria stood awkwardly as her attempt to cause a scene backfired. Even her reporter companion looked moved by Jack's speech. Before Victoria could respond, there was a loud popping sound from the kitchen, followed by shouts. "Fire!" Rachel yelled, rushing from the kitchen. "Everyone out!" Smoke began pouring from the kitchen doors. The restaurant's fire alarm activated, its shrill sound filling the space. "Everyone, please move calmly to the exits," Kayla directed, her voice steady despite her fear. The evacuation began immediately. Staff guided guests toward the doors in an orderly fashion. Jack helped an elderly couple to their feet. "Kayla, get the boys out," Jack called across the room. "I'll make sure everyone else gets out safely." Kayla gathered Mason and Miles, holding their hands tightly. "Where's Michael?" she asked, suddenly panicked. "He was showing the homework area to a family," Miles said, pointing toward the back of the restaurant where smoke was now thickening. "Jack!" Kayla screamed. "Michael is still in the back!" Jack immediately pushed against the flow of evacuating guests. "Get Mason and Miles outside," he called to Kayla. "I'll find him." The smoke was getting thicker. The fire, which had started in the new electrical panel they had just repaired, was spreading quickly through the back of the restaurant. Outside, Kayla stood on the sidewalk with Mason and Miles, watching the restaurant fill with smoke. Fire trucks were arriving, sirens blaring. "Mom, where's Dad?" Mason asked, his voice shaking. It was the first time he had called Jack Dad without hesitation. "He went to find Michael," Kayla said, her voice barely a whisper. Inside, Jack crawled through the smoke-filled homework area. "Michael!" he called. "Where are you?" A small voice answered from under a table. "I'm here." I got lost in the smoke. Jack found Michael huddled under the table, coughing from the smoke. "I've got you," Jack said, pulling his son into his arms. As Jack carried Michael toward the exit, a section of burning ceiling collapsed in front of them. Jack turned, shielding Michael with his body. Burning debris hit Jack's back and arms, searing through his chef's jacket. Despite the pain, Jack found another route to the exit. He emerged from the restaurant carrying Michael, his arms clearly burned, his face blackened with smoke. Paramedics rushed forward as Kayla and the other boys ran to them. Jack handed Michael to a paramedic before collapsing to his knees on the sidewalk. "Is Michael okay?" Jack asked as paramedics began treating his burns. "He's fine, just some smoke inhalation," the paramedic assured him, "but you have second-degree burns on your arms. We need to get you to the hospital." As they loaded Jack into the ambulance, the triplets watched with tears in their eyes. Even Mason was crying openly now. "He saved me," Michael kept saying. "Dad saved me." Kayla climbed into the ambulance with Jack holding his uninjured hand. As the doors closed, they could see their restaurant, their dream, engulfed in flames. "Everything we worked for," Kayla whispered. "Not everything," Jack replied weakly, looking at her and then toward the triplets standing with Frank on the sidewalk. "The most important things are safe." As the ambulance pulled away, the family watched their new beginning literally go up in flames, not realizing that from these ashes, something even stronger would eventually rise. The white hospital ceiling was the first thing Jack saw when he opened his eyes. The steady beeping of monitors filled the quiet room. His arms were heavily bandaged, and an oxygen mask covered his face. Every breath hurt. "Dad's awake!" Michael's voice called out. Jack turned his head slowly to see all three triplets sitting beside his bed. Mason stood up immediately, moving closer. "Are you okay?" Mason asked, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. Jack managed a weak smile. "I'm fine. Just some burns." Kayla appeared in his field of vision, her eyes red from crying but her smile relieved. "The doctor says you have second-degree burns on both arms and some smoke inhalation. You'll need to stay here for a few days." "Michael?" Jack asked. "I'm okay," Michael said, stepping forward. "The doctors checked me and said my lungs are clear." Jack closed his eyes briefly, relief washing over him. When he opened them again, he noticed something unusual. Mason had positioned himself protectively next to the bed, as if standing guard. For the next 3 days, Jack remained in the hospital. The triplets visited every afternoon after school, bringing handmade cards and drawings. Mason rarely left Jack's side during these visits. Miles was quieter than usual, and Michael asked dozens of questions about the fire. On the 4th day, while the boys were at school, a fire investigator visited Jack's hospital room. "Mr. Hamilton, I'm Inspector Rodriguez from the fire department," the man said, showing his badge. "I'd like to ask you some questions about the fire at your restaurant." Kayla, who had been arranging flowers on the windowsill, sat down beside Jack's bed. "What have you found so far?" she asked. "The fire started in the electrical panel," Inspector Rodriguez explained. "The same one you had repaired the night before the opening." Jack frowned. "That can't be a coincidence." "No, it probably isn't," the inspector agreed. "We found evidence that suggests tampering. Someone may have deliberately overloaded the system." "Victoria Harrington," Kayla said immediately. "She was there that night. She's been trying to ruin us for weeks." Inspector Rodriguez made notes. "We can't prove anything yet, but we'll investigate all possibilities." After the inspector left, Thomas came to visit, looking uncomfortable. "Chef, I need to tell you something," Thomas said, unable to meet Jack's eyes. "I spoke with Victoria before the fire. She asked questions about the restaurant's electrical work." "You told her about our electrical problems?" Kayla asked incredulously. Thomas nodded miserably. "I didn't think she would do anything. She said she was just curious about the renovation." "Did you help her sabotage us?" Jack asked directly. "No, I would never," Thomas insisted. I didn't realize what she was planning." Jack studied Thomas's face for a moment. "I believe you, but I think it's best if you find another position. We can't work together after this." After Thomas left, Kayla's phone buzzed with a notification. She checked it and gasped. "Jack, look at this." She held up her phone, showing a crowdfunding page titled "Help Rebuild Family Table." The campaign, started by restaurant workers from across the city, had already raised over $50,000. "People want to help us rebuild," Kayla said, her voice filled with emotion. Later that day, Frank Morrison visited, bringing a giant teddy bear that made Jack laugh despite his pain. "This isn't just for you," Frank said. "It's for the boys. I have grandchildren. I know what kids need when they're scared." "Thanks, Frank," Jack said. "And I'm sorry about the restaurant." "Your investment is still sound," Frank interrupted. "In fact, I'd like to increase it." "Even after we burn to the ground on opening night?" Kayla asked. "Especially after that," Frank said. "Jack's heroism is all over the news. People are calling him the chef who saved his son. This kind of publicity is priceless." "I wasn't thinking about publicity," Jack said quietly. "I was just thinking about Michael." "Exactly," Frank smiled. "That's why people are responding. It's authentic." During his recovery, Jack had plenty of time to think. On his 5th day in the hospital, he asked Kayla to sit with him for a serious conversation. "I've been thinking about us," he began. "Us?" Kayla repeated, suddenly nervous. "Not just you and me," Jack clarified. "All of us. The family we're building. I think we need to be careful not to rush things." Kayla nodded, relieved. "I agree. The boys have been through so much change already." "I want to be clear," Jack continued. "I care about you, Kayla. But right now the most important thing is creating stability for the boys and rebuilding the restaurant. Let's focus on being good co-parents and business partners before we consider anything more." "That's very wise," Kayla said, reaching for his unbandaged hand. "We have time to figure out the rest." The triplets were processing their traumatic experience in different ways. Miles began having nightmares about the fire, waking up crying and needing Kayla to comfort him. Michael became unusually quiet, staying close to Kayla whenever possible. Mason developed an overprotective attitude toward everyone, checking windows and doors multiple times to make sure they were locked. "I think the boys need professional help," Kayla told Jack one evening, "and maybe we do too." Jack agreed immediately. "We'll find the best family therapist in the city." Their first therapy session was held in Jack's hospital room before his discharge. Dr. Lewis, a kind woman with gray hair and gentle eyes, spoke to each family member individually, then brought them together. "Traumatic events affect everyone differently," she explained. "The important thing is to talk about your feelings rather than hiding them." Miles was the first to open up. "I keep having bad dreams about the fire," he admitted. "I'm scared it will happen again." "That's very normal, Miles," Dr. Lewis assured him. "Your brain is trying to process what happened." "I keep thinking about being lost in the smoke," Michael said quietly. "I couldn't find my way out. But then Dad found me." Jack reached out his bandaged arm toward Michael. "I will always find you, buddy. Always." Mason stayed silent until the end of the session. Finally, he spoke. "I was mean to Dad before. I didn't want him around. But then he saved Michael. He got hurt because of us. Not because of you," Jack corrected gently. "For you. There's a difference. That's what parents do." A week after the fire, architects presented preliminary rebuilding plans for Family Table. The new design incorporated lessons learned from the first attempt: better fire safety systems, improved kitchen ventilation, and an enhanced family area. When Jack was released from the hospital, he faced a dilemma. His apartment was too far from the boys' school for him to help with daily routines while recovering. His limited mobility from the burns made living alone difficult. "You should stay with us," Kayla suggested. "We don't have much space, but the couch pulls out into a bed." "Are you sure?" Jack asked, surprised. "The boys want you close," Kayla said. "And frankly, so do I. You need help with those bandages." The triplets were thrilled to have Jack staying with them. For the first time, Jack experienced their daily routine firsthand. The morning rush to get ready for school, the homework struggles, the bedtime rituals. "How do you do this every day?" Jack asked Kayla one evening as they collapsed on the couch after the boys were finally asleep. "You just do what needs to be done," Kayla shrugged. "That's parenting." Living in Kayla's apartment gave Jack new appreciation for how hard she had worked as a single mother. The tiny kitchen where she prepared meals, the shared bedroom where all three boys slept, the careful budgeting she did at the kitchen table late at night, all of it showed her dedication. One evening, 3 weeks after the fire, Victoria Harrington appeared at Kayla's door. "What are you doing here?" Kayla demanded, blocking the entrance. Victoria looked different, thinner with less makeup, her normally perfect appearance slightly disheveled. "I came to apologize," she said quietly. "Why should we believe anything you say?" Jack asked, coming to stand beside Kayla. "My husband died last week," Victoria said. "Heart attack. It was sudden." Kayla's expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry for your loss." "It made me realize how pointless all this has been," Victoria continued. "My vendetta against you. My need to hurt others to feel important. Stephen's death changed everything." "The fire inspector believes someone tampered with our electrical system," Jack said. "Was that you?" Victoria shook her head. "No. I wanted to embarrass you, not harm anyone. I would never risk children's safety." After Victoria left, Jack and Kayla stayed up late discussing rebuilding plans for Family Table. They fell asleep side by side on the pull-out couch, emotionally and physically exhausted, but united in their determination to create something meaningful from the ashes of their first attempt. 6 months later, construction on the new restaurant neared completion. Jack stood before the rebuilt space with his family beside him, his arms finally healed, ready to create something even more meaningful than what was lost. 6 months of hard work has paid off, Jack said, looking at the gleaming new sign above the entrance. Family Table is ready. The rebuilt restaurant was more beautiful than the original. The kitchen was completely redesigned with state-of-the-art equipment and better safety systems. The dining areas were more spacious, with the family section now larger and more welcoming. They had even added a training kitchen where cooking classes could be held. "It's better than before," Kayla said, standing beside him with the triplets, who were now 11 years old. "We learned from our mistakes." The grand reopening was scheduled for the next day. News outlets had been covering the rebuilding process for months, with Jack's heroism during the fire still fresh in people's minds. Early the next morning, the family gathered in front of Family Table. Jack wore a new chef's jacket without the usual chef's name embroidered on it. Instead, it simply said, "Dad." Kayla stood beside him in a professional business suit, no longer dressed as a waitress but as the co-owner she now was. The triplets wore matching outfits, but with different colored ties. Red for Mason, blue for Miles, green for Michael. "Are you ready?" Jack asked them all. At exactly 10 o'clock, they cut the ribbon together. Cameras flashed as Jack, Kayla, and the triplets officially opened the doors of Family Table. The first customers entered, many of them familiar faces who had dined at Silver Spoon before the fire. They looked around in amazement at the transformation. "It feels so different," said Mrs. Davidson, a longtime customer. "Welcoming, but still elegant." "That was exactly our goal," Kayla said, escorting her to a table. The new kitchen was Jack's pride and joy. Large glass windows allowed diners to watch the chef's work, demystifying the cooking process. Jack moved confidently between stations, checking dishes before they went out. Miles stood beside him in a child-sized chef's jacket, carefully plating the special sauce he had helped create. "Perfect," Jack said, examining Miles's work. "You've got a natural talent for this." In the dining room, Michael proudly showed a food critic the homework area he had helped design. The space now included tablets with educational apps, better lighting, and comfortable seating. "Kids can do their homework while their parents enjoy dinner," Michael explained. "I tested every chair myself to make sure they're comfortable for long homework sessions." Mason, who had once been so resistant to Jack, now confidently greeted VIP guests at the door. His natural charm and growing confidence made him perfect for the role. "Welcome to Family Table," he said to Frank Morrison, who arrived with a group of potential investors. "My dad's excited to show you the new menu." Kayla moved through the restaurant with ease, handling everything from seating arrangements to vendor deliveries. Her business skills had grown tremendously under Frank's mentorship, and she now managed operations with confidence. A film crew circulated discreetly through the restaurant, capturing footage for the first episode of Jack's new TV show, also called Family Table. The network had eagerly embraced the concept of following Jack's journey as a new father while rebuilding his restaurant. "We want to keep filming natural," Sarah, the producer, explained to a curious guest. "This isn't staged reality TV, it's Jack's real life." By mid-afternoon, the restaurant was filled to capacity. Food critics were writing notes while tasting Jack's new menu. Social media influencers were posting photos and videos that were already getting thousands of likes. Frank Morrison approached Jack and Kayla during a brief, quiet moment. "I've brought some friends who might be interested in our next venture," Frank said. "Next venture?" Kayla asked, surprised. "We just opened this one?" "A culinary school for underserved communities," Frank explained, using the same family-friendly approach. "These investors were impressed by your single-parent training program." Jack and Kayla exchanged glances. They had created a program to train single parents for restaurant careers, with flexible hours and childcare provided during classes. It was already helping 5 single mothers start new careers. "Let's talk about it next week," Jack said. "Today is about celebrating this accomplishment." To everyone's surprise, Victoria Harrington arrived in the late afternoon. She looked different than before. Her clothing was still expensive but less flashy, her manner more subdued. She carried a large envelope. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said when Kayla approached her cautiously. "I brought a donation for your single-parent training program." She handed Kayla the envelope, which contained a substantial check. "Why the change of heart?" Kayla asked. "Losing my husband made me reevaluate everything," Victoria explained. "I was a miserable person who tried to make others miserable too. I don't want to be that person anymore." As the evening progressed, the triplets took turns giving tours to other children who came to dine with their parents. They showed off the special features they had helped create: the children's menu designed by Miles, the homework area organized by Michael, and the family-friendly dining section where Mason had chosen the sports memorabilia on the walls. From the kitchen, Jack watched Kayla masterfully managing the restaurant. Her confidence, intelligence, and natural hospitality skills made her perfect for this role. He felt a surge of pride in their partnership. Between lunch and dinner service, the family gathered in the private staff area for a quick meal together. It was a new tradition they had established. No matter how busy the restaurant was, they always took 20 minutes to eat together as a family. "Today is going really well," Michael said, eating his sandwich. "The food critics seem happy," Miles added. "I saw Mrs. Chen from the New York Food Review writing lots of notes. And those investor guys were impressed," Mason said. "I heard them talking when I brought their water." Jack smiled at his sons. "I'm proud of all of you. This restaurant belongs to this whole family." In the evening, during a special dinner to mark the official one-year anniversary of their original family table concept, Jack gave a speech thanking everyone who had helped them rebuild. "1 year ago, we had a vision for a restaurant that would put family first. Both the families we serve and the families who work here," Jack said. "Then we faced a devastating fire. But that fire showed us what truly matters." He looked at Michael, remembering the terror of searching for him in the smoke-filled building. "Sometimes it takes almost losing something to realize how precious it is," Jack continued. "This restaurant rose from the ashes stronger because we built it together, as a family." After the guests left, Jack and Kayla found themselves alone in the kitchen. The staff had gone home and the triplets were helping the cleaning crew in the dining room, counting it as their allowance-earning chore for the week. "We did it," Kayla said softly. "Sometimes I can't believe how much has changed in 1 year." "From waitress and customer to business partners and co-parents," Jack agreed. "It's been quite a journey." "Do you ever regret it?" Kayla asked. "Finding out about the boys? Taking on all this responsibility?" Jack shook his head firmly. "Never. My life before was empty, Kayla. I had success, but nothing that really mattered." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, their shoulders almost touching. "We should consider the boys' suggestion," Jack said finally. "Which one?" "They have so many ideas for the restaurant. Not about the restaurant, about us. About trying to be a real couple again." Kayla looked at him in surprise. "They said that?" "Miles did. He said it would be easier if we all lived in the same house all the time, not just when I stay over to help with their science projects or when they come to my place for weekends." "And what do you think?" Kayla asked carefully. "I think we should take it slow," Jack said, "but I also think he might be right." 1 week later, the entire family took a rare night off from the restaurant. Jack came to Kayla's apartment with grocery bags full of ingredients. The triplets cleared the small kitchen table while Jack taught them all how to make fresh pasta from scratch. "The trick is in how you knead the dough," Jack explained, guiding Miles's hands. "Like this?" Michael asked, enthusiastically pounding his dough. "A little gentler," Jack laughed. Mason carefully cut the pasta into perfectly even strips, his natural precision showing. "Is this right, Dad?" "Perfect," Jack said. "You're a natural." Kayla watched them all, these 4 males who had become the center of her world. Jack caught her eye and winked. When they finally sat down to eat, Jack raised his glass of sparkling cider in a toast. "To family table," he said. "Not just our restaurant, but this right here, the most important table any of us will ever gather around." The triplets clinked their glasses solemnly, then immediately began talking over each other about school projects and baseball scores and cooking ideas. Jack and Kayla exchanged smiles across the small table. Their journey had been unexpected. Their family had formed in an unusual way, but sitting here in Kayla's modest apartment, sharing a meal they had created together, they were finally what they were always meant to be: a family. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.